It's 12 o'clock, and you're watching KCCI Channel 8 Des Moines, Iowa's news leader. With Molly Cooney, Jason Hoffman, and meteorologist Mike Lozano. This is News Channel 8.
UN inspectors returned to Iraq, waiting to resume their search for weapons of mass destruction. Meanwhile, the U.S. is waiting to see if Saddam lives up to his promise to let inspectors do their jobs. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ann Spate, in for Molly Cooney.
And I'm Jason Hoffman. UN humanitarian teams are returning to Iraq today after leaving the country when a U.S. military strike seemed inevitable.
But over the weekend, Iraq did back down and said it would allow weapons inspectors whatever access they needed. But while the military action is on hold for now, as Lee Cowan shows us, the military is ready to strike should Saddam go back on his word.
In neighboring Bahrain, UN weapons inspectors are preparing for the long, arduous trip back across the desert to resume their work in and around Baghdad.
We're hoping for a very professional and cooperative reception. That's what the Iraqis have promised, that's what they've said.
But Iraq has said that before. Skepticism is slowly becoming a very real part of U.S. policy.
We now have the world looking to Saddam Hussein to see whether he will in fact apply.
In Baghdad, newspapers are touting victory again, claiming Saddam's last-minute change of heart confused Americans and brought about an end to the crisis.
I think he's gained political stature in the Middle East and in his own people. He does every time that he spins out of the way of the U.S. and can point to the fact, you know, I'm really smarter than those guys.
The next few days and weeks will be another testing period, and UN inspectors plan to push it to the very limit. As for the soldiers already there, it's all getting a little old.
Tough. I got a wife and a kid back home, back in Fort Stewart, and I miss them dearly. You know, I'd like to be home, but us as a unit are here to do a mission, and we're not going to leave until our mission's complete.
With the U.S. military poised to attack, the next confrontation could be over almost before it begins. The U.S. saying it does not need to go back to the UN before deciding to launch another attack. An attack that, by some people's estimates, could leave upwards of 10,000 Iraqis dead. Lee Cowan, CBS News, Washington.
Meanwhile, Israel is reportedly developing a sort of ethnic bomb that can tell the difference between Arabs and Jews. The London Times quotes unidentified sources saying that the biological weapons could harm Arabs but not Jews. The article also says this is Israel's response to Iraq's threat of chemical and biological attacks. An unidentified scientist says they did succeed in pinpointing a particular characteristic in the genetic profile of certain Arab communities.
Israel is holding off from its pullback of the West Bank until Palestinians drop their plans to declare independence. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made that announcement today in a speech to Parliament as they begin a two-day debate on a land deal worked out with the Palestinians. The vote was expected later this week, with at least 90 of 120 legislators likely to support the agreement, but it could be in trouble right now. Well, the Polk County Attorney's Office is teaming up with a local not-for-profit group to prosecute and counsel bad check writers.
Crime Beat reporter Brian Polson has a story from our newsroom. And Brian, what is this program for exactly?
Well, basically, it's there to help small business owners recover their losses when people write bad checks. For years, merchants have complained that the county won't go after bad check writers if the amount is less than $200. The county attorney says there are just too many of them. It would bog down the court system. But today, County Attorney John Sarcone announced a possible solution to that problem in a news conference at Merle Hay Mall. It's called the Bad Check Restitution Program, and it's a program that teams the prosecutor's office with a nonprofit group in finding and recovering losses from bad check writers.
We're looking at it as a very, very good opportunity to help cut the numbers of bad checks in this community and hopefully help merchants get restitution.
Now, under this program, business owners can fill out a blue complaint form. It's a bad check complaint form like this one. Also call a toll-free hotline, which we'll show you in a moment. Then once the check writer is found, Ann and Jason, he or she has the option to either pay the amount of the bad check and pay to take an 8-hour educational course or face criminal prosecution.
Sure, a lot of people are hoping that program works. Thanks a lot, Brian. And by the way, that 800 number for business owners to call is 1-800-368-7235. That is the number for the Polk County's Bad Check Restitution.